Welcome, Warriors, back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2. And I'm going to try to do a couple of these before I take off this morning. And once again, thank you guys for all the great comments, the subscriptions, the things that you've given to me. I get a lot of great feedback from you guys. And, you guys kind of give me a lot of topics that we're talking about. And I want to thank trillionaire. I want to thank Christian, which I'll talk about on the video we're doing right now. And a lot of people, Shab and a number of people, Pixel, all kinds of people who are kind of giving great comments. And so we're going to kind of focus on a few of these as we go along. But the idea that we're going to do today is going to be talking about a comment that Christian had. And I like to always, give shout outs to people. And, he's one that has got a great question. As we did with trillionaire and a couple other people that have kind of given questions lately. And I'll kind of focus on the questions because I think it's a great question. And he talks about Christianity and retention. So let's kind of delve into that a little bit. Before we do that, subscribe, like, comment, and we're kind of focused on trying to kind of get answers to you guys on this channel to try to help you become better in health, wealth, and spiritual growth. I think we need more men out there. And my definition of man is a well-balanced type person, going back to the days of Aristotle and Socrates, and focusing on a person who has a lot of their vitality and energy and doesn't get sick, doesn't get stressed out, doesn't get a lot of these type of things that we see in our society. And I have learned the hard way through lots of trials and tribulations that there's certain ways to do things and there's certain ways not. All right, so let's focus on this idea of, Christianity. What's Christianity have to say about retention? And I'm obviously not an expert, but what I can do is kind of read a couple passages from the Bible. Now, no matter what your faith is, I think that it seems to me in reading all the ideas of brahmacharya and sophism and researching retention, celibacy, it just seems like across the board, no matter what you believe in, this idea is a common type of core, that you should not, kind of let your energy go. You should use it for the proper purposes, and that's really to have children and use it to create children. But beyond that, you should not be using your energy because that lessens the person. And in this case of males especially, it makes you a lot weaker. And if you want to look at society's crumbling in the history, a lot of it was because of these lascivious behaviors. Look at the Roman Empire, and that happened to extreme cases, and then that led to violence and all kinds of other types of things that destroyed people. And when you're talking about those type of behaviors and getting out of control, those are the types of things you have to be very careful about. And so, as you look at those type of things, I think you have to be careful of all the types of things that can get into your head that can get you to kind of get off your course and all of a sudden fall back into the patterns of temptation again. So let's kind of look at a couple of different verses. And I want to first start, like I always try to do, and I'm going to do this more often, is looking at some quotes from Stoicism. And the one quote that I kind of want to use in this one is that no man is free who is not a master of themselves. So no man is free who is not a master. So I think in many ways you have to kind of gain control and master yourself. If you master yourself, you're going to be able to master a lot of things around you and have an ability to kind of say no and not really be controlled by those things around you. So kind of let's look at Leviticus a little bit here. And I'm looking at Leviticus chapter 15. I'll just take 2 and 3 here, but it says, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when any man has a discharge from body." Now, discharge obviously is focusing on loss of energy, right? And it says, his discharge is unclean. So that means that in the Bible, in Christian religion, you're talking basically about somebody who is not a clean person because they're discharged. Now that means a lot of different things, but in my sense, it means that you're weakening yourself. You're moving away from your Creator. You're moving away from God, and you're doing a lot of things that are kind of moving away from being the type of man, the type of vigorous man that you should be. And I think that that's something that obviously way back when the Bible was written, this was an issue. And I think when you look at the history of people, you look at all the empires that have fallen down over the years. I don't care if it's the Roman, the Babylonians, the Sodom and Gomorrah, which I think we have a Sodom and Gomorrah going on today and around the world, and you're going to see a lot of things happen, I believe, because of that, just like it did back in the old days, right? Babylon fell, Roman Empire fell, Incas fell, all these different historical types dynasties passed away and died because they got destroyed from within. All these behaviors. So the story of human nature hasn't changed. You can go back to the Bible, you can go back to anything you read, you're going to see the same type of story. You cannot lose your energy. This is a common thing with human nature. In the chapter 3, number 3, the third section of this talks about this, moreover, shall be his uncleanness in his discharge. And it is uncleanness whether the body allows the discharge to flow, which means if it allows you to leave your body, or the second part of this, whether the body obstructs its discharge. So even if you end up, getting all this energy moving up, and all of a sudden it gets, it's blocked, that's not a good thing either. Now, yes, we talk about transmuting, and that's good, but you should not even get to the point where it's actually being considered to leave your body. Now, once again, this talks about monk mode, and you know that as well as I do. Now, is that easy to do? No, right? So this is obviously something we have to keep shooting for, and I'm the last person to talk about trying to get it done because it took me many, many years to do it. And I'm getting to the point now where I have a little better control of it, but I'm still not the master of myself, and I have to keep working at that myself. But when you look at this idea, you're talking about the fact that even if you're not discharging it out, you're still unclean. And they talk about the fact that you're going to be unclean, at least you have to bathe, in this case, in water, and you're not be unclean until evening, right? And so basically you're talking about a lot of types of things that they talk about in this chapter with this, right? And if a man lies with a woman, number 18, so there's a seminal emission, which is what we're talking about, right? They both bathe in water and be unclean until evening, okay? The woman also has a discharge issue, and, they're also, continue to be unclean. So you talk about these type of things, and this is something that's been around for, until the start of time, right? So to actually just talk about this now, I think it's kind of ironic that we're now going back to this, because I think society goes up and down, and there's people, as I said to you guys before, you guys are chosen ones. I believe that's very strongly. The ones who are looking at this, the ones who do this, I think we're chosen to continue to lead to mankind. And I plan on, trying to live as long as I can. But for some of you younger people, you have a lot of potential that you're learning this young. And so I'm hoping to kind of give you more information as I go along. The other chapter is Deuteronomy, and I think that, which was a chapter I was looking at here. Let's see, what was a chapter I was trying to find here. But it numbered, I think it's 10. Let's see which one I have as a chapter 24. I'd have to look for a second here, guys. But the idea that you really want to do is you want to go ahead and focus on, let's see here. Yeah. Let me look at this for 1 second here. Okay. Oh, Deuteronomy 10. Yeah, so let's go number 10 for a second. 23, chapter 23, 10. Okay. If there is among you any man who is unclean because of a nocturnal emission, he must go outside the camp. He may not re-enter the camp. So here, guys, you're talking about warriors. Warriors who basically had a discharge. Warriors who had some sort of energy loss. They weren't even allowed back in the camp. Now, obviously, there's a lot of metaphors, analogies made here, but basically the idea is you cannot fight if you're losing energy. And this is why coaches and trainers have always talked about the fact that you cannot go into a big battle, whether it's a sporting event or anything, if you're going to go ahead and release your energy, because you become weaker. It's just kind of a common sense type of thing if you think about it. But we've been indoctrinated in our world that it's the opposite. that you actually get better the more energy you lose. And that just does not make any kind of sense at all. But it's also a matter of controlling yourself. It always comes back down to control. And so let me address e-trillionaire here for a second. E-trillionaire, great question about the use of objects and toys and all kinds of stuff like this that people do to actually enhance it. Now, I am not going to be telling you that you shouldn't be with someone, have fun, all those kind of things that you want to have. That's going to be your call. But I will say this much, Warrior, that again, when you're talking about discharging, when you're talking about those type of things, anything that gets you in a point where you're doing that, I don't care what kind of thing you're talking about, what kind of object, those type of things that help you with that. And I realize this is a multi-million dollar business, and this is why they're happening. People in all these industries, and it's interesting to me that you look at some of these companies and they're working together, right? The people who do Viagra and things like that, those companies are working with the companies that put images out, right? Those type of things, and put those movies out. And it's really just kind of interesting to kind of see all this because they're making money. They're making money off of you and me because of focusing on our temptations and weaknesses. And so you have to kind of look at your weakness and make it a strength. And so e-trillionaire, I would, the pros, there are very little pros that I see any longer. Now, if you asked me this 20 years ago, I would probably tell you something else. But I don't see any pros with this. I really don't. I think the idea that you want to focus on is saying, okay, if I'm going to do this to have a child, I'm going to do this. You should be able to not need any of those type of things to be able to do that. And if you have a strong drive, those type of things will be fine. On the other side of it, the cons are just incredible. I think dopamine to your brain, I think it limits your focus. It's almost like it short circuits your system, and it just makes it very difficult for you to focus on other things if you're focusing on this all the time. So anything that's keeping your focus away from your goals, especially something like this, it's almost like you're brainwashed or you're trapped in a cage, and this is all you're thinking about. And that's why I think they talk about the Bible and a lot of other types of things talk about that, the use of all these films and movies and objects and things you're talking about, just there's a fantasy world that goes on and says that this is something that you should do, and these are just movies, guys. This is not reality, and I think that's the key to understand that you have to kind of look at reality a little bit and say, is this really helping me or is this hurting me? Not only you're spending money on a lot of this stuff, but you're focusing really on something that is really self-destructive in the long run. So I think I'm going to do an extra video eventually for e-trillionaire on this, but I just wanted to also mention the point he had about this. There's too many cons to even consider any longer. I think that you should stay away from those places. It's easy for me to say, obviously. I dealt with those things for many, many years, but I do recommend that you stay away and you focus on what the Bible and other religious type of books are telling you, that discharging, letting your energy go, those type of things are just things that are going to destroy you, and so you don't want to do that. All right, so hope that answers the questions. Once again, Christian and e-trillionaire, thanks for your questions, and until next time, warriors, battle on.